Hare Krishna. So we'll resume our discussions on chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga, resuming from verse 13. Samam kaya shiro grivam dharyana chalam stiraha samprekshana shikagram swam dishaschanavalokayan prashantatma viktabhira brahmachari vrate stitaha manaha samyamyamachitto yuktasitamatparaha. One should hold one's body, neck and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. So Krishna is continuing with his discussion on the process to reach the advanced stage of yoga. So after teaching Arjun how to properly sit, the previous two verses were how to sit properly on the asana, neither too high nor too low, steady place, not movable, should be your own, should not share it, deer skin, kusha grass. So different criterias for proper sitting. Krishna now teaches Arjun how to meditate. So these verses describe how to hold the body while sitting on the asana. So kaya refers to the middle portion of the body. So the neck, torso and the head are mentioned together as a unit, since they are limbs of the living entity. And samam means they should be straight. Achalam means that they should be unmoving, which means the yogi should not be rocking back and forth, should not be slouching, should not be leaning over, but sit erect and immovable. Then sthira means that without being shaken, determined effort, one should graze between the tip of the focus between the gaze at the tip of the nose or between the eyebrows. Now, one cannot really see between the eyebrows, so this is where one imagines that they are seeing within the eyebrow. And the eyes should be neither open nor closed. They should be half open. So this is to prevent the mind from sleeping or wandering. So if one is looking around here and there, then one will wander. The yogi might see a bird sitting on a tree, or might see two animals fighting with one another. So the mind will wander. And if the person closes the eyes, then one may sleep. But in this way, by focusing the eyes on the nose or the space between the brows, one stays internally alert. Right? Asita means that in this manner, one should be seated. So, Prashantatma now talks about the internal situation. So far Krishna is talking about the external. Prashantatma means that the mind should be undisturbed. One should be fearless and one should maintain vows of celibacy. Right? So celibacy is completely abstaining from all forms of sex life. And it's an important prerequisite to the practice of yoga, because with sex comes a lot of other attendant activities, even sex that is within the scriptural injunctions. With sex comes family, with family comes attraction to others, deviation of the mind. So the prerequisite here is complete celibacy. Right? So the aspiring yogi should have overcome this obstacle. Then what does Krishna say? That one should be free of fear. So when does a person become free of fear? When they have dependence on Krishna. And so the person should not fear that an animal may come and attack me, should not fear where my next meal is coming from, is it going to rain, but they're fully dependent on Krishna. And then finally what Krishna says that yukta asita mataparaha, that the person should completely concentrate on me. So here Krishna explicitly declares himself as the object of meditation and the ultimate goal of the yogi. As so Prabhupada says that the goal of life is to know Krishna, and the yoga process is practice in order to discover and see the localized form of Vishnu, and not for any other purpose. The localized Vishnu Murti is the plenary representation of Krishna dwelling within one's heart. One who has no program to realize the Vishnu Murti is uselessly engaging in mock yoga practice. Prabhupada is criticizing those who perform yoga for other reasons, whether it is for health reason or wealth or for mystic powers. So Krishna clearly says, only purpose of bona fide yoga is to be able to attain Him, is to attain Krishna. Okay, next verse. Verse 15. Yunjan evam sadatmanam yogi niyatmanasaha shantim nirvana parmama mat samstham adhigacchati. Thus practicing constant control of the body, mind and activities, the mystic transcendentalist, his mind regulated, attains to the kingdom of God or the abode of Krishna by the cessation of material existence. So the previous verse talked about the process. This verse talks about the result of following that process. So such a person, so what does a person do? The summary of the person is that yunjan evam sadatmanam. Sada means constantly. So at this stage, the person is not interrupted by any material desires. And what is the constant engagement? Atmana. So here Srila Prabhupada translates Atma as all the three meanings, body, mind and soul. So such a person constantly with his body, mind and soul is practicing the process of yoga. No interruptions and with everything. Not just with the body and the mind and soul are not in line, but everything is in line. Yogi niyata manasaha. Mind is regulated. So the mind is coming twice. We are talking about the importance of mind in the practice of yoga. And the last two lines talk about the destination, adhigacchati. What does the person achieve? Shantim. He achieves peace. Then nirvana paramam. So nirvana is liberation. Paramam means ultimate liberation. So it is the liberation from material existence. Right? There are different kinds of nirvana. So one is nirvana just from material miseries. Other is nirvana from earthly existence, elevating to the heavenly planets. But this is nirvana paramam. This is essentially getting freed from the material existence. And where does one go after that? Mat samstham. So one enters into the spiritual sky. So Prabhupada in the purport he writes that no one can reach the spiritual sky or enter into the Lord's eternal abode without the proper understanding of Krishna and his plenary expansion, Vishnu. And so why does Prabhupada say this? Because by nature there are great flaws in the process of karma, gyan and astan. So let's look at the flaws briefly. So in sakam karma yoga or karmakand, one tends to become attached to the fruits of the activities. And because of that, one aspires for and gets material opulences and pleasures. But because of this, one's material existence is perpetuated. They keep taking birth again and again. In Gyan, the fire of knowledge burns away the desires to enjoy material things and removes anxieties. So that Sakam is now replaced with Nishkam. But there is no facility to fill the vacuum of the desires. So the soul may enjoy temporary peace because of the disengagement with the duality of the material existence. But by nature the soul is Anandamai. It needs to enjoy. And in Gyan, there is no positive engagement of the soul. There is a cessation of the negative engagement, but there is no positive engagement. That's the flaw in Gyan. In Astang Yoga, one also gets the side effect of the yoga. So one gets long life, one gets perfect health, and one gets mystic siddhis. So these tend to deviate a person. When a person has the ability to travel at the speed of mind, when the person is able to become larger than the largest, smaller than the smallest, then these siddhis themselves are seductive. Almost like a karmi enjoying material things, a yogi begins to enjoy these siddhis. And the second is also that there is still a lack of positive engagement for the mind. That the yogi, by the force of the yoga, has withdrawn from the material engagement. But there is still not that strong spiritual engagement, the personal enjoyment that the soul desires. So that, coupled with the bestowing of the siddhis, causes the Astang yogi to fall. Which is why Srila Prabhupada makes this point that without a proper understanding of Krishna and his plenary expansion, nobody can enter into the spiritual world. So what is that proper understanding? Prabhupada says that is Savaimana Krishna Padar Vindya. That one becomes absorbed in the activities of Krishna. So then all the vacuum that is created by withdrawing the mind from material enjoyment, from siddhis, that vacuum is now filled with the bliss of Krishna consciousness. And that is why one is now effortlessly able to enter into the spiritual sky. Okay, next verse. Verse 16. Natashnatastu yogasti nachaikantamanashinataha nachati swapnashilasya jagratunev charjuna. There is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi, O Arjun, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough. So this is a very practical verse of moderation that Krishna recommends. One should not eat too much or too little, or one should not sleep too much or too little. This is also very relevant for practicing devotees. That sometimes devotees become fanatical in the practice, and they may not sleep sufficient hours, or they may become emaciated by eating too little, and ultimately it interferes with the devotional practices, and in many cases they give it up because they find it difficult to sustain. So in this context also, Krishna in two verses, 16 and 17, he is describing the process to make yoga steady, because it's a long drawn process, right? So he does not want one to simply do extreme activities and then fall off. Right? So the focus here is moderation. So eating too much, atyahara, it causes sleep, it causes laziness, it causes greed, it causes excessive endeavor. Then not just in quantity, so Atyara also is in quality. So somebody is overly attractive to eating sumptuous food, or eating food not recommended in the scriptures. Right? That causes interruption in the Vedas. So only eat food in mode of goodness and in moderation. Similarly, sleep is considered to be in the mode of ignorance. Now, of course, everybody needs sleep, but too much sleep is in the mode of ignorance. Too less sleep, it will not let the body rejuvenate and becomes prey to diseases. So Prabhupada says one who eats more than required will dream very much while sleeping, and he must consequently sleep more than is required. And then he gives some practical instructions that one should not sleep more than 6 hours daily. One who sleeps more than 6 hours out of 24 hours is certainly influenced by the mode of ignorance. A person in the mode of ignorance is lazy and prone to sleep a great deal. Such a person cannot perform yoga. Okay, next verse. Verse 17. Yuktahar viharasya yuktacheshtasya karmashu yuktaswapnavabodhasya yoga bhavati dukkhaha. He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. So this is a companion verse. There Krishna had said that one who is not able to control the eating and sleeping will fall. Here Krishna is saying that one who is regulated in the habits of eating, sleeping, recreation and work. So yukta means controlled. So ahar is eating and viharasya is recreation or walking. What other control? Krishna says that cheshtasya. Cheshtasya is the control of actions such as speech and karmashu. Karmashu means material and spiritual duties. So the previous verse said that follow the golden mean, not too much, not too little. Now Krishna says that follow the golden mean according to regulation. So one should not be whimsical in determining what is too much and what is too little. But the scriptures give us the golden mean. Because some people may take shelter of this verse and say, well, Krishna says that one should not eat too much, too little, so I'm eating too little, so let me eat a little bit more. Or Krishna says one should not sleep too much, too less, I'm sleeping too little. Now Prabhupada gives some injunctions there, but one may say, but Krishna is saying something else. So now Krishna is saying that what is too much and what is too little needs to be regulated by the scriptures. And Prabhupada explains that all these activities become automatically controlled if they are centered on Krishna. So if one only eats Krishna Prasadam, one only works, walks and talks for the pleasure of Krishna, then these activities are naturally regulated and do not require any additional endeavor. Okay, let's go to the next verse. Verse 18. Yada viniyatam chittam atmanya eva vateshtate nispara sarva kamebhyo yuktityuchyate tada. When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga. So in the previous set of verses, the last 8 verses from 10 to 17, Krishna had described the process, how to meditate. Now from 18 to 32, in these 15 verses, Krishna will describe the perfectional stage of Astanga Yoga. So this is the higher stages that are leading to samadhi. The earlier stages was control of the external senses and the internal desires. And the later stages are more in terms of controlling one's thoughts and meditation. So when does the yogi become perfect in yoga? This verse describes that situation. So when consciousness stops all movement, right? Viniyatam chittam, and he is firmly fixed without distraction in Atmani. So Atma, as previously Prabhupada had translated, could mean self, or could mean Paramatma, or could mean Krishna. So the person is firmly fixed without distraction in Atmani, in self alone. Then the person is in perfect consciousness. So Prabhupada, once again, and we see this trend as I mentioned earlier on, for everything that is achievable through Astanga Yoga, Prabhupada will make a note that it is also achievable through Bhakti Yoga, but much more easy, right? And Prabhupada constantly wants to bring our attention to Bhakti because that is the recommended path for this age. It is the highest, and it is essentially the only thing that we can follow. We don't have qualification to follow Karma, Gyan or Astanga. So because of these reasons, Prabhupada constantly brings our attention back to Bhakti. But when he's comparing them with the outcome of Astanga, then the point he's making is that just because Bhakti is easy to follow does not mean that it is inferior. Sometimes people make this mistake, that all that devotees do is sing and dance and eat prasadam. So it's a process for those who are not qualified to do Karma, Gyan or Astanga. But Prabhupada repeatedly gets our attention that all this, so this is Yoga Rudha, the advanced stage of yoga, right? And Prabhupada mentions that this perfectional stage can automatically be attained by persons in Krishna consciousness. Okay, next verse. Verse 19. Yathadi punivatasto nankati sopama smrita yogino yata chittasya yunjatu yogam atmanaha. As a lamp in a windless place does not waver, so the transcendentalist whose mind is controlled remains always steady in his meditation on the transcendental self. So, how to describe that perfected yogi? Prabhupada, Krishna, he uses an analogy that the flame of a deepa, sa-deepa, that the flame of a lamp in a windless place, it does not flicker. So the flame is representing the mind of the meditating yoga, and the wind is essentially the external disturbances, whether it's coming from the senses or the mind. So for a yogi who has achieved perfection, because all these disturbances have ceased, so all the internal functions, with the exception of those that are related to the Atma and the Paramatma, have ceased. So there is no wind, and the yogi is similar to a lamp in a windless place. The next verse will talk about the experience of such a person. So continuing, verses 20 to 23. Yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya yatchevatmanatmanam pashyannatmani tushyati sukham atyantikam yattad buddhigrayam atindriyam veti yat न चैवाव्यं स्थितश्चलति तत्त्वतः यं लब्ध्वा चापरं लाभं मन्यते नाधिकं ततः यस्मिन् स्थितो न दुःखेन गुरुणापि विचाल्यते तं विद्या दुःखसंयोग वियोगं योगसंज्ञितम्. Translation: in the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all material miseries arising from material contact. So in this set of verses, the experience of a perfect yogi who has attained the Brahman platform is described. And his fixedness is similar to that of the Sthita Pragya that was described earlier in 254. So the connection of the soul and the super soul for the yogi is attained through transcendental mind and intelligence. And the experience that is being described in this verse is essentially acquired because of coming in contact with the Lord's Chit potency. So as we know, Krishna has Sat, Chit and Anand. Chit is his Sat is his existential potency. Chit is his knowing potency, and Anand is his bliss. So by coming in contact with the Lord's knowing potency, the yogi knows the self, begins to know the Lord, and thus becomes joyous. So 6 symptoms of the perfected yogi is described here. One is that the mind does not hanker after anything material. The senses are spiritualized. What does it mean the senses are spiritualized? It means that material senses go after material pleasures and spiritual senses go after transcendental pleasures. So the soul is not without senses. It has spiritual senses, but when it gets covered by the gross body, then the same spiritual senses become material. But when that gross covering is removed, then the original spiritual senses are revealed. So that's the second symptom. Third is material distress cease, and that's kind of a foregone conclusion from when the senses are not material, when the mind is not hankering after material. So when the cause has been removed, then the symptoms, which is material distress also, is automatically removed. Fourth is Abhidaya Gyan, Chit Shakti. Abhidaya Gyan is understanding one's relationship with respect to Krishna and how to establish that relationship. So the person is now established in the process of trying to re-establish. All the souls have an eternal relationship with Krishna, which gets covered. But now the yogi is in the process of re-establishing that relationship. The fifth system is Asakti. Asakti means that at this stage, the yogi cannot fall because he is so much fixed in the relationship with Krishna. And the sixth is that he experiences bhava. He experiences boundless transcendental happiness. So, the asakti that we spoke about is manifested through persistence and patience. So the anirvan chetasha is the certainty that by the practice of yoga I will attain the Lord. So even though the process is long, troublesome, back and forth, so the yogi does not think that after such a long time I have not achieved perfection. What is the use of all the work, right? But he is convinced that the path is the path that he is following, and he should continue to follow. There is a pastime that is indicated in connection with the advancement of the yogi, which is that of a sparrow. And the sparrow, as you know, is a very small bird. So it had made a nest on the banks of the ocean, and it had laid its eggs over there. So the waves of the ocean came up and swept the eggs in the ocean. So the bird came back and begged the ocean to return the eggs. But the ocean simply ignored. So there's the mighty ocean, boundless, and this small bird. And then the bird made this promise to itself, and it said that to the ocean that you return my eggs or else I will dry you up. So the beak of the small bird could barely carry one drop of water at a time, and the ocean simply laughed and ignored the bird. So then the bird started taking one drop of the ocean, putting it in the bank, taking another drop, and the ocean was laughing and everybody else was laughing. So Narad happened to come by, and Narad started speaking to the bird that why are you engaged in this futile endeavor? That look at the vastness of the ocean and look at the small size of your beak. It's never going to happen. So the bird made this promise in front of Narad, saying that if not in this life, in the next life. If not in the next life, the life after that, but I will dry up this ocean. So Narad Muni was very much taken in by the firm commitment by the bird. And by the will of the Lord, Garuda came. And Garuda is also the bird, considered to be the one of the first of the species. So it considered the sparrow to be its younger sister. And it turned to the ocean and said that return the eggs to the bird or else I will dry you up. Now, the sparrow could not dry the ocean, but Garuda could. Just by the flapping of its wings, Garuda could have completely dried up the ocean. So the ocean became frightened and quickly returned the eggs to the bird. So this story is used to indicate the position of a yogi. That even though the yogi has to endeavor enormously, but it is just like taking drops of water out of the ocean. But it is that endeavor that draws the mercy of the Lord. So without that endeavor, the Lord's mercy will not come. So if that sparrow had simply flown away or given up, then Narad Muni would not have come, he would not have sent Garuda, and the ocean would not return the eggs. So the yogi, even though understands that the process is very long, very difficult, too many obstacles, almost impossible, but he remains resolute in his commitment. And that enthusiasm, that conviction is what attracts the mercy of the Lord, and the Lord extends His Chit Shakti, the knowing potency, to the yogi. Prabhupada in the purport says that today's so-called yoga practice, which involves various pleasures, is contradictory. A yogi indulging in sex and intoxication is a mockery. Even those yogis who are attracted by siddhis in the process of yoga are not perfectly situated. If yogis are attracted by the byproducts of yoga, they cannot attain the stage of perfection, as is stated in this verse. Person therefore indulging in the make-show practice of gymnastic feats of siddhi should know that the aim of yoga is lost in that way. Okay, so we'll pause over here and continue with the remaining verses in the next discussion. Hare Krishna.